Well, hello, and thank you for stopping in. Ancient Path Remnant and I have decided to get together and do another podcast. So please tune in. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, from the power of our words to the season we're in, and how that spiritual growth during this time of season does not lay dormant, but continues on. And a lot of what we say and what we think affects the growth that we have internally and spiritually. Thanks again, as always, for joining me, and welcome today, Ancient Path.
Thank you, Branches of YAH. I appreciate it. I'm excited to do this video. It's, as I always say, it's an important time, and it always is, and it just becomes more and more important as we run our race and run it with endurance. And so I'm excited to talk about this tonight. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Now, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, or the 10th or the 100th, thanks for joining us. But I want to talk about one thing, because I can tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit of my testimony, not fully, but some, and what I've learned a little bit over time, which is directly in line with what we're bringing forth today. First of all, the first thing that led me, I was looking at YouTube videos, and I was seeing Islamic Mohammedans coming out of their religion. And I saw this, and I, having known many of these people, knew quite a bit, and knew quite a bit about what was written in their books. So I knew that the peril some of these people were in, it's quite a no-no. So when I saw that, and I thought, they're risking everything. They're risking everything. It impacted me so much so that at the time I didn't, of course, know any names. I didn't know anything really yet. I just knew that I had wasted my life seeking the biggest idol in my life was me, in the pursuit of what made me happy, what felt right to me. And that was the biggest pursuit I had. But in that moment, I was so convicted, it dropped me to my knees. And I bawled before YAH and prayed and begged him to forgive me, and begged him to reveal himself to me, that I wanted to know him. And I apologized profusely about how much I had wasted my life not seeking him. And I knew, and ever since then, there's been a long journey. I won't get into all of that now, but ever since then, he's helped me to grow. Even when, again, I get in the way, he's helped me to grow. One of these things in the spiritual growth is that when I first got into this, the more I learned, the more I wanted to be just a purist. I wanted to be completely pure of all the pagan religious traditions of men and all the teachings that I'd ever heard or listened to and everything else. I wanted to be a purist. So I rejected anything that came from the people, and I kind of, over time, I just kept doing my study of the word, and he kept showing me things in his word, and he kept showing me things in his letters, and he kept showing me depth. But over time, I found that he could speak to me through anyone, that he could speak to me through any teaching. And I started getting these books of people that were not from the West so much, but were Christians, and writing books, and their insights about things were profound, not on the teachings, but from the perspective of understanding some of the parables and things like that, because they too were builders, or they were sheep herders, or they were, things that we can all kind of relate to, and really gained a deeper understanding. And I realized over time that I could receive things from those very people that I had formerly rejected completely and totally, that he would show me insights. I mean, if he can talk through a donkey and give insights of his word and his warnings, then he can certainly use this donkey to bring profound things. So I can certainly stop being such a donkey and start listening from the inspiration that he gives and wherever it comes from. But so many of us get into this rejection mode, to where anything that somebody says we don't agree with. Now, I'm not talking about the teachings of Western people, I'm talking about scripturally. Anything that we don't quite get or understand, or somebody has taught us something that contradicts what we are now seeing, we'll kind of reject that teaching, and we'll reject those things out of hand without really praying on it, without really seeking him first in his understanding and his ways. And I found that he's softened my heart enough to realize that he may not give it to me through the methods I'm seeking and searching for. He might give it to me through someone else, but he's really taught me to open up my heart to see that profound wisdom of his can come from anywhere, and not to reject it. So I would ask that if you're listening to this and you hear something that you don't like, or you don't necessarily agree with, that you pray on it, and that you think about it, and then you go into scripture and search it out. But keep praying on it, keep searching for it, and have that open heart, have a moldable heart that he can work with. Because trust me, I know my heart has become hardened towards some things and softened towards others, and I realize I have to have an open heart to allow him to work with me. He has to fill the vessel. I can't leave any portion of it to my own understanding, because if I'm filling it up with me, there's no room for him. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of that tree of knowledge of good and evil. I mean, there's good that can be gleaned, but that tree also has, some evil aspects to it. And so he did give us that choice on this earth. We sort of have that knowledge of good and evil all over, and we really need his spirit to help us discern, and his word to discern right and wrong, and really rely on that. So in the world, we have all this knowledge coming to us, and it comes from many different places. And that's why it's so important to rely on his word, and then his spirit to teach us, his Ruach HaKodesh to teach us. And it's really the only way. It really is. I mean, and like you said, it can come from many different places, but it needs to align with his word and his spirit in us, giving us that understanding of what is his will and what's right. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, he's given us, he told us he brought the light in the world to divide between what is darkness and what is light. And obviously this is before the sun, moon, and stars, so we understand where that light was, the light of the world. So we understood that, and it was his Torah, it was his word, it was his son that came into the world to be that light. But that son was also a lamp unto our feet, because he was and is the Torah. So he is that walking, talking Torah. He is the embodiment of what that Torah is. And so as long as it lines up, like you said, with Torah, with scripture, because you and I both know that to have discernment, to understand that you may get told 10 right things and one wrong thing, doesn't mean to reject the 10 right things just because that person got one thing wrong. Now, if they're, obviously I'm not talking about the proclaimers and prognosticators and fortune tellers of the world. I'm talking about scriptural alignment.
Right. Wherever you're getting the word from.
Yeah.
There's error. I've found, everyone feels like they're right, and everyone feels like other people have error within their walk. I think we all feel that way. And so we really do have to discern what Yahuwah's will is for us. And that's, connecting that spiritual place is so important. Being able to hear from him, through the word, through his Ruach, to be able to discern those things. And because, you can glean some really good information from places, but then also it can lead you astray. It's just, there can be like the serpent in the garden, and lead you astray. So it's really important in this season and moving forward. We know that word, though, the pure word, is so important to plant that in the garden of our hearts and minds and let that grow.
It is. And it's funny you mentioned the serpent, because I know we talked about this, about the Nachash, and the Nachash is that word is besides a serpent, it means to divine or to speak a spell. And if you think about it, what speaks or what speaks a spell, or what casts a spell over us more than anything, or being enchanted, it's to hear something that aligns with what we believe in our own hearts, our own spirit, not what the Ruach HaKodesh is telling us, but what our own spirit is, because we seek for the easy way. We look for things that bring us no pain or discomfort. So when something speaks to us, that's why he says to not only discern every thought, but to test every Ruach, to test that spirit behind it. What's behind that? So he wants us to test that. So it's amazing when you think about the world, and the things of the world can enchant you because they will appeal to your most debased thoughts. They will appeal to what you already believe. So it is so important to be, and especially in this season right now that we're in this going into winter for most of us. Some of you may be different if you're in other countries, but yeah, it's so important. And this goes into, I think, a lot of things you wanted to bring forth tonight, and that is about about our words, what we're saying and what we're thinking and what we're bringing forth, because it is utterly important. We are in a spiritual time of reflection right now. So if you wanted to talk about some of the things you were looking at and some of the scriptures that you were bringing forth, I'd love to hear them.
Well, YAH's been showing me that we really, during this winter season into, spring, into the Passover season, the Pesach season, it's a time of, we're going to need to do a lot of spiritual work. What I'm seeing is that his people need to be healed. They need to be healthy and healed, mentally, physically, spiritually strong for the spiritual battle, that he's raising up a remnant army, and he's raising up his Gideon's army. And, he's been inspecting our garments. And I feel like possibly some people, and it could be me, I'm not saying it's not, it could be me as well, that we just weren't ready. Maybe some of his people just weren't quite ready. And, he really he's raising this remnant army. We know we're in a spiritual war. We've got, Halloween coming up, and it's a very wicked time of the year, and a lot of horrible, horrible things happen at this time of year. There's a lot of spells being cast. There's a lot of, wicked things going on, sacrifices and things. And so we are in a spiritual war. And so this isn't the time to be asleep and to slumber. And what he's showing me is that if we'll, really do this spiritual work this season, that I mentioned in one of my other videos about, being like calves leaping from the stall, but he would lead us into a place of spiritual favor. And he showed me that, if we would really do this work, and it's going to be difficult. I mean, spiritual work is hard. It's like trying to get in shape physically. There's a lot of work. And, but if we do this, that he would have favor on our homes. And so all of this ties in together with the power of our words, what we speak. What are we speaking? Our words can be a curse over people. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. And, there's in Proverbs 12:18, it says, there is one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. And so what I'm seeing is that it's a season of really healing and absorbing the nutrients right now. And you had some incredible insights about that I'd love for you to share, about how, the seed and where it falls, and how during the winter time there's all this stuff that's really happening that we think it's dormant, and that there's this whole process happening so that come springtime there's this harvest.
Yeah, it's something that we look at this winter time. Like I said, so much of the winter we feel like we're between the harvests, and many people think this is a time that the farmers can rest and relax, but it's just not true. And neither is the one who is planting and the one who is reaping resting, but the seed itself does not rest. And it ties right into what he says, that my word shall not return to me void. So if his word is the seed that has been implanted in us, it's constantly working. So we have to remember that. And it's much like when they plant, whether it be a tree or whether it be a seed of a plant or anything else, anytime that seed would fall into the ground, then the shell would die. That would become part of the nutrients, but not what was within it. What was in it, what's inside of it, is very much alive. And in trees that are growing and have grown, we see during the fall time how they've lost their leaves and they start to be bare. We can look at that as us shedding our fleshly garments, the garments of flesh, the things of the world that we have put on, our ideas and our traditions and our malice and all the things that we hold on to, all of, our regrets and our fears and all the things. So as we too, like the tree is shedding its leaves and it's shedding all that it has externally, we shed our flesh during that time. And we enter into that time to where the tree looks dormant to the average person, but it's not. During that time, the tree is going through a process. It's shrinking its cell membranes. As it shrinks its cell membranes, it's doing that so that water can be moved from the roots up throughout the tree to maintain its life. But if it did it the same way it does during the spring and the summer, even the first parts of the fall, if it continued to act in this way, that water would freeze within the trunk. It would kill the tree. So it has to actually work harder, the metabolism of that tree. And so as we are in this season between the fall Moedims and, like you said, Pesach, and that time, this is a time for us too, having shed our leaves, having shed our flesh, to enter into this and let that word, that seed that's been planted within us, do its work, so that growth might spring forth and bear much fruit. Because, like you just said, like the father comes to inspect the guests to the wedding, now that we've been invited to come into the wedding, and the father will inspect us, so does the farmer inspect his trees and his plants, and he inspects the fruit to make sure that there's nothing rotten and nothing that might infect the rest of the things that are planted around it. They would remove that. And so too, we are going to be inspected. So during this time that we think of dormancy, when the world sees darkness and shorter daylight, shorter days of light, we see a time for us to really start searching our inner self, our spiritual self, that ruach within us, so that we too might bear much fruit to the Father when we are harvested prayerfully, YAH willing. So this is the introspection that we have, is to start letting that word really work within us and let it do a lot of work. And like you said, it's not easy work, because some of that's going to hurt, because when you do that introspection, you start seeing those areas that are rotten within you that need to be cut away. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. And not only that, but as everybody else around us is seeing darkness, they're seeing more darkness, less light, more fear, more doom, more gloom. We too have to bring forth the light that has been instilled within us through the word, because the word, the Torah, is a light to our path. It is a lamppost to our feet. So we too are going to have to be that lampstand. We're going to have to carry forth the word. That's what we've been told to do. Carry forth the word. The word does the cutting. The word does the lighting. The word does it all. He plants the word. He reaps. He tills the heart, not us.
And think about how that word comes to us. It comes to us through, a lot of times we should be reading the word, and we should be listening to the Ruach and following our good shepherd or Messiah. But a lot of times we're listening to the words of others. And, in Proverbs 10:31, the mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut off. Now, you were just talking about, the branches being cut off, and, inspecting the fruits of us. And the other day I saw, it's just, you see these things happen once in a while, but sometimes when it's a sign to you. And I was outside, and a tree branch fell about 6 to 8 feet from me, just fell off like a dead tree branch.
Wow.
And another sister said that she and her husband saw a tree branch fall as well that same day. And it was very strange the way it happened for them. But I just knew, I watched it, and I knew, again, it was a sign. And, he's going to be cutting down and tearing down the things that are rotten, the things that aren't, producing good fruit, because it chokes out all the good that the tree is supposed to produce. So I feel like he was showing me that, and this other sister, that these things are going to be falling. And we know this from the word that, he's going to be exalting the lowly. If we humble ourselves, he'll exalt us. If we exalt ourselves, he'll humble us. We know all this, that the axe is laid at the root. It's already there, and we know the reaping and the harvest and all these things that it's so important that we are spiritually prepared for all this, so that we are trees planted by streams of living water who do not fear when heat comes, and we bear fruit in our season, and we bear good fruit in our season. So, this time period is what he's showing me is vital that we're not slumbering and sleeping during this time, that we do this spiritual work, and then think how far ahead we'll be during the Pesach season and beyond, depending on what happens. Should things happen, if he's got his favor upon us because we were obedient to this, like, if he gives someone a word, like he gave Noah a word, and he told people to come into the ark, come in, and they wouldn't listen. All I can do is say, well, this is what I hear. This is what I'm being shown. And I heard the other day, get them into my barn. So all I can say is he's moving his people to a spiritual place. I don't know what he's going to do in the natural. That's not something that because each family is different, each situation is different. I don't know what YAH is going to do in the natural, but if I know that he wants us in his barn under protection, in a safe place, and we, are bearing good fruit for him, there's this protection, there's his favor upon us. I feel like so many people feel like they just don't have to do the work and for his favor, but he says, if you do this, then I'll do this. There's a condition.
Always.
If you abide in my word, I will, bring you favor upon you. And that's what he's showing me. So all I can do is be obedient to it, do the best that I can. I don't even know what I'm being asked, and I've asked, for you to help me a little bit with this, whatever you can do. And I just, I know it's a time of not slumbering, for sure, because, we all know, we can all see some signs of things could get rough. Things in the world are pretty crazy. And so spiritually, we need to be in his protection, in his covering, in the secret place, on top of the mountain, in the barn. It's all the same thing. It's all in his covering.
Get in his sukkah, get under that covering. Yeah. That's all it is. That's what it is. And I'm, it's funny that you're talking, because I'm thinking about the world and how it's so easily, it leads us astray. In Ecclesiastes 11:4, it says, he who watches the wind will not sow, and he who looks at the clouds will not reap. In other words, he is distracted by the things of the world. The wind's going to blow and the clouds are going to come. And guess what? We're in that season when the wind's going to blow and the clouds are going to come, and you're going to be distracted, and the world's going to feed you everything under the sun. But he told you there always will be wars and rumors of wars. There always has been. There always will be. Don't fear. Don't fear he who can kill the body. Fear he who can kill both the neshama and the nefesh, the being and your very soul, as though you never exist. That's the one you fear. That's the one you revere. That's the one you stand in awe of. Don't let this stuff of the world get us all bound up in who's doing what. They think they're doing something. They're not doing anything. They're putting on a show, and they're trying to reap fear. They're sowing fear, and they're going to reap a harvest, but it won't be us, will it, brethren? It won't be us. So, in YHUH 10:12, it says, sow with a view to righteousness, Reap in accordance with kindness, and break up the fallow ground, for it is time to seek Yahuwah until he comes to rain righteousness on you. That's what that's our goal. He's coming to rain righteousness on us. Yes. So we will break up the fallow ground. We will reap in accordance with kindness. We will sow knowing that the view is towards righteousness. We know that that is the goal. That is the end of what we seek, is righteousness. And he rains it upon us. He who is obedient, he who does the work. And guess what? He says he sent, the Mashiach told us, he sent the Comforter to help us, to guide us, to lead us. So it's not like we're alone in this. We're never alone. Even if you have no one in your house and no one around your town, you're never alone. And if you're a true brethren, if we're truly going to be brethren, and we have to start being, we have to stop with these. I think you even had some scripture you want to bring forth on this, but the factions, these factions have got to stop. There's whether you call yourself Messianic or Nazarene or Sacred Name, or so many of the other various things that are, being called Torah observant Messianics, all the rest of it. It's like, these are just factions where no one can agree on anything. Well, we can agree on the Mashiach. We can agree on that he came, that he took that sin and death for us, and that he raises us up in victory and righteousness as the seed does its work within us. So we can all agree upon that. I think if we got back down to the light of the message of the word, then we reap what we sow. If we sow darkness and fear and disdain and argument and factions and disunity and all those things within us, that's what we're going to reap. That will be our crop. It'll be thorns and thistles.
We reap what we sow. Yeah, so Proverbs 18:1, an unfriendly person pursues selfish ends, and against all sound judgment starts quarrels. Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions. When wickedness comes, so does contempt, and with shame comes reproach. The words of the mouth are deep waters, but the fountain of wisdom is a rushing stream. It is not right to be partial to the wicked, and so deprive the innocent of justice. The lips of fools bring them strife, and their mouths invite a beating. The mouths of fools are their undoing, and their lips are a snare to their very lives. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the innermost parts. Now, I just want to say something about that. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the innermost parts. This shows me that our words go into every cell and molecule of our beings. Our words, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And so we either bring healing or we bring strife. We either argue, or we bring uplifting, healing, helping each other do better. We know that YAH is the one who's going to sort out all those issues. He can guide and lead. And testing the spirits, this is something I wanted to talk about. When we test the spirits, nobody really talks about how do you do that? How do you test the spirit? Well, in this world, you don't have shalom. In this world, we won't have shalom. If we're right with Yahuwah, if we're on the right path, he gives us great shalom. So this is one way you test the spirits. People may not understand is that if you're on the right path with him and he finds your heart pleasing and you have a desire to please him with all your heart, we need to realize that Abba can do what Abba is going to do. He can give the increase. He will, he can come in and change somebody's life in an instant. He can, like Job's life, Job, he can change everything in an instant and humble somebody in a second, a millisecond. So, a lot of times we think we're the ones who are supposed to, micromanage every aspect. It's good to bring forward and speak to people about their troubles. Maybe they're sinning, and talk to them about it. But, if they don't listen, if they won't listen to your message, you're just supposed to wipe the dust off your feet and keep it moving.
Well, if they're brethren, we bring them to before others. But if it's done in love, it's different when you're pointing fingers. than it is when you come with kindness and love in your heart. And I think everybody realizes that when you come at them, it's how you come at somebody, and again, Yah doesn't, we're only perfect as we walk in Mashiach, but on our own, we're not. And even the greatest in scripture weren't perfect. Daud was not King Daud or David. He was not perfect, and he did some terroristic things during his time, but yet he had a heart for Yahuwah. So because he sees from the beginning and the end, he knows the beginning from the end. He knows every hair on our head. He knows he knit our bones in the womb of our mothers. He knows everything about us. There's nothing we can hide from him. So he knows things that we don't even know about ourselves. He knows his plans for us, and he knows where he's taking us. So he allows us to make errors in judgment and things for his righteousness. It doesn't mean the end of us. Eliyahu or Elijah, he got fired from his job because he killed those priests. I mean, Moshe himself, who struck the rock and out of anger brought forth the water, he still brought forth the water, and Moshe is still considered, the patriarch of bringing forth the word that was from the beginning back to the people. So this is not like Yah won't allow these things. Like you said, he knows the beginning from the end. He knows if your heart is right or if it's not right. So he allows that. He allows for us to be, I hate to use the term, but human. he allows for that. I was looking at what you were saying about shalom, and I was looking at Jacob, or the one they renamed James 3:18, and it says, "And the seed whose fruit is righteousness is sown in shalom by those who make shalom." So really in this season, in this, not only this introspection, this really letting the tilling of our hearts happen, this time of letting that spiritual truth, come forth from within us so that it can burst forth into the harvest, just awaiting. I'm like, in this time, we got to be people of shalom. We got to bring it. We got to stop with the condemnation. Yah is not lifting up anybody to go correct the rest of the world. That is his word. That is what his word does. His word cuts like a two-edged sword. That's what the Mashiach says. Do not think I came to bring unity, but division. He's the one who separates the sheep from the goats, the wheat from the tares. He has never instructed us to do that work for him, and to show evil and unrighteousness whenever possible, to show it. He's not talking about some of your brethren, like you were saying, who's really worshiping with all their heart, and they're seeking and they're looking. And guess what? No matter how long you've been in this, you could be 100 years old and you still haven't even touched the surface of his word, because I think you could spend a lifetime in one chapter, honestly, breaking it down and really seeking his insights on it, and you would never fully get it. So there's always room for growth. There's always room. He prunes off what's not growing, what's not bringing forth fruit, and everything that we say to one another should be with this in mind. What is the fruit? What does the Ruach bear to Yahuwah? It's peace, patience, long-suffering, kindness, tolerance. It's all of these things that so many people are lacking. So many people are lacking that very thing, to have patience, long-suffering, shalom. These are things that are so important for us to allow to bear fruit, because when we focus more on that inner spiritual being and our spiritual self, like you said, with the words, when we start thinking about the words we're speaking, what damage can they do? Sticks and stones can only break your bones, but words can change the world. So that,
absolutely.
And so it is so vital as to what we say to somebody else, because other people are listening. If we're not encouraging somebody, even if they're wrong, you can go to them. Now, if they're purposely being obtuse and trying to walk their own way, do it their own way, then, like I said, Scripture says, go ahead and dust your feet off. It doesn't mean that they're doomed. It doesn't mean we know what's going to happen to them. It just means at that moment, there's some work being done. And you may not be able to see the hand that's moving on them, but there's something happening here. Let him do his work. Move on.
and pray for them. Pray for them.
Always, without
Pray for
ceasing.
the greatest good, because that's what I've seen so many times is when I pray for YAH to open their eyes and for his will to be done and for him to judge the matter and for me to take my flesh out of it and allow him to do the work. I have seen people change dramatically, and I desire their greatest good. I don't want them to fail. I don't want me to fail. I desire for everyone for their greatest good, to open their eyes to the things that, may be flawed in their walk, but also open my eyes so I can see my flaws. I don't want to stand here thinking that I've got it all right.
No, we're supposed to. We are supposed to inspect ourselves before he does. So before, like the man who stood there, probably one of the ones that was invited who decided to come at the last second, when he saw all the rest of the people going as guests to the wedding, and he sneaks in and he's wearing that old garment. He should have inspected himself before he even got in there and said, is what I'm wearing fit to be a guest at a wedding? And we have to do that. We have to look at, but it doesn't say go inspect all your brethren. It says inspect yourself. So it's hard. And then because somebody's wrong about something, and again, if that was a disqualifier, that book would be a lot thinner. It'd be more like a pamphlet.
Right.
So if that was a disqualifier for any of them or any of us, not only would it be few who make it, it would be next to none. He's making many rooms. So he's working. He's constantly working. Isn't that what the Mashiach said when he says, my Father works on the Shabbat, and so do I. He's always working. And what's he working? He says he works all things out for our benefit, for righteousness' sake, that he is esteemed and honored in our hearts. And it comes back down to that spiritual work. We have a lot of spiritual work to do. First, we have to really do that introspection. Next, we have to go out and we have to share that light of the word with the world, not just yell it at them or tell them, not walk around with condemnation like we know for sure that, they were wrong about this and they're teaching wrong about that. And I tried to tell them and they won't listen. So now they're going to burn in the pit. Their blood's not on my hands. I've heard these kind of things. I've heard from people who are declaring his name. So I'm like going, I've seen more love and unity in Christian groups than I have in these groups in Torah keepers. To be honest, we're as factioned off and as divided as we could be, and you can see it, you can feel it in the spiritual things. I mean, the world is, we talked about this before. About I feel this is one of the feeling I'm being given is that the spiritual world and the physical world are starting to catch up to one another. There's not this is happening here, then this is happening here. I'm starting to see in real time how the physical world is being pulled back into alignment with the spiritual world. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, oh boy. So yeah, I can't tell you how that looks or when that's exactly going to happen, but it's happening. Things are starting. His word does not return to him void. Our words are powerful. Our thoughts are powerful. They're powerful. They create, they destroy. Scripture is very clear on that. We've seen it. We talked about it with Masamoto, did it with the water, but also people are doing it with rice, putting water in rice and speaking to a bowl of rice over in one section of the house with a lid on it, hateful things, opening up and saying hateful things to it and closing it back up and watching it day by day to see what happens. And then people saying wonderful things like, I love you, and, doing prayers and things like that on this other one and going back. And the one that was spoken to, and there's so many videos of this, so many people tried it, that you saw that the ones that were spoken with hatred and malice and evil intent, it rotted. I'm like, we're 2/3 water. What do you think happens to us How can we be a light if everybody's walking around as a walking, talking candle snuffer? But that's what's happening right now. Everybody's so willing to put the fire out of another individual because they said something or they listened to insightful things from scripture from this place or that place, and yet they get insight. Now, it may not be, if it's not in line with Torah, fine. But if it's not, you said it earlier, don't forbid them, because if they're not against us, they're for us.
Right.
So if they're not actively out there trying to teach people to not keep the Torah, to not follow the commands, if they're not actively out there trying to teach absolute falsehoods, which could end in people's deaths per scripture, then why would you forbid them to do it if they're really, truly trying? Because everybody should have growth. We all should. I've had it. I'm still getting it. The more I open myself up to allow him to work inside of me, the more growth I'm getting. The more I let him prune away, the more I yield.
Well, that's something that I found in my journey, is that I really didn't need to do anything. If I just bring the word, I don't need to really do anything, because YAH is working in someone else's life. And if I step in and try to change something that YAH is working in someone's life, then am I messing up his work? And then I get corrected. I found this so many times, that by me trying to correct other people in every little detail. Now, I'm not saying that we don't, help each other overcome our sins and things like that. But I'm talking about strictly, doctrinal issues. These things that people in the community sort of latch onto as if, it's all or nothing. And when those aren't the issues that we should be fighting spiritual forces of wickedness. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and spiritual forces of wickedness.
Yeah, but we're too busy wrestling with each other.
Yeah, we're wrestling in the flesh, and that's what YAH has been trying to show us. I mean, it's all throughout Scripture. Our Messiah,
he overcame the flesh. He overcame the flesh. He defeated. Right. He not only defeated the flesh, because it said he was tempted in every way a man that could be tempted, but still it did not sin. So not only did he defeat death, he defeated life too. He defeated this life in this flesh. So yeah, we're wrestling with it constantly. I don't know how we can get past it, because we talked about it before, that pride thing. Oof.
Yeah.
We all have it.
If YAH showed us something, do we not think he can show other people? And then on some level, we feel like that they're not being shown what we were shown, so they're wrong. And I just think if YAH can show me, you, anyone, the things, in Scripture, why can't those people be shown the same thing by the power of YAH's Ruach HaKodesh and by the power of the Word? It's to each one of us to seek it out, to desire it with all of our heart. These things aren't just given to us. We have to dig for them like gold and for jewels. So there's a lot of effort and work that goes into desiring to know spiritual insight and understanding, having a deeper relationship. That's given at levels and measures based on what we put into it. So why would, maybe someone isn't at that place yet. Maybe they're not putting the effort in, and there's a reason why it's not being revealed. But I always give YAH the opportunity to work in that person's life by praying for people, praying for their greatest good, praying that they desire to seek it out, praying that he opens their eyes to see the truth. I tell you, when you work in the spirit realm, spiritual realm, and allow the forces of YAH's kingdom to work and let him go and bring this spiritual understanding and put his ruach within us and change our hearts at the deepest level to desire to do good, to do well, and to desire to, the greatest good for other people, then this is powerful. If we had just understood that hitting each other in a fleshly way, fighting in the flesh, isn't moving anything. And it's not doing any good. But when you go in the spirit and you pray for YAH to do it, you move mountains. We move mountains. And so when we come together and work together, we become a united front. We've talked about that before. Pray for if you feel like someone is not understanding their path.
Yeah.
And you've gone to them and tried to speak to them about it, you know, and go into prayer. I tell you, he can do it. He can do it. He puts it inside of us. Doesn't he put his Ruach within us? Doesn't he reveal a matter? Doesn't he, you know, do this work? Isn't he the potter and we're the clay? I mean, everybody else wants to be the potter, it seems like. Everybody's the potter of everyone else.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but even, you know, we've all been there. We've all tried to be the potter before, and in some way, shape, and form, we just, once we get these insights, either you do it out of an exuberance of like, oh, let me show you what I got. But look, if he didn't give it to them, no one's drawn to him unless he draws them. So we can't draw him, and he's going to draw them in time. And Ecclesiastes tells us that, was it 3, that he talks about there's a time for everything, time for sowing and reaping. There's a time for life and death. You know, there is a moed, there is a time, an appointed time for everything. Everything has an appointed time. So often we're trying to rush that. We're trying to rush the harvest. Oh, well, I want to harvest now. So we're going to go out in December and start trying to reap the harvest. And that's not his time. Everything is working on his time, and he's perfect. So we need to let him do it. He tells us in Zechariah 8:12, he says, for there will be shalom for the seed. The vine will yield its fruit. The land will yield its produce. And the Shamayim, or heavens, will give their due, and I will cause the remnant of this people to inherit all of these things. So it goes back to that, who gives the increase. You know, it is YAH who gives the increase. It is from the Shamayim, it is from the heavens that the increase comes. The increase is that dew that waters all of this, the water of the word that never returns to him void. It's going to do its work. What happened when the Mashiach, when it was entombed, and then he went down to Sheol to preach to the brokenhearted, he was working. He didn't just die and was resurrected. He worked. So we too. He did his spiritual work. He fulfilled what Yashayahu said. Isaiah, he fulfilled that fully. It's like he was always working for our benefit. Never leaves or forsakes us. He's always working for us. So we have to start thinking about these things, like the power of our words, this time of introspection, this things that we're saying to each other, and start being that light. Everything should be tempered with, is this long suffering? Is this in shalom? Is this love and kindness? Is there any nobility to it? Will this in any way lift up, raise up, encourage, and strengthen? If what I'm about to say to somebody who's supposed to be a brethren, or what I'm about to say to somebody that I'm wanting to draw into YAH, to just know him, not to know me, but to know him, is what I'm doing going to draw them or repel them? Because I got to be honest with you, we'd have a hard time recruiting people right now, because most people are coming in this because they feel betrayed by whatever religions they were in. So they come in this with the wrong heart. And instead of an excitement and exuberance to truly know the Most High, to get to know his name, to study and to think upon his name, to really ponder his word, it's really more out of this aggravation of the world to realize, oh, it's all been lies. It's like, sure, it says, he told you, let everything that man brings forth be a lie. Let it all, every word out of our mouths be a lie, but only the word, only his word is the truth. And then we go to look at it, we go, wow, I can see it. I was talking to somebody today, and I was talking to more than one person just about things in the world. And I say, it says this in scripture, and it says this in scripture. And I could just tell he's like going, because it's true. I'm like, there's parallels all throughout. It's the wisdom of Elohim. It's his understanding. And we have to start thinking about these things. And we have to think about the impact it's having. When you wake up in the morning, if you're not just thankful for waking up, I would encourage anybody to test this out. To every day, somebody you deal with on a daily basis that you have some interaction with, just say something nice to them every day. You look nice, nice smile, oh, nice set of shoes, whatever might come to your mind. Say that for 2 weeks straight and watch how the dynamic of that relationship. Now, go find somebody that you don't really care for and do the same to them and watch what happens. Now, either you will change that person or you will heap coals upon their head, because if you're saying it with your heart to say, I want to mean these things, I'm gonna go out of my way to be kind to this person, not to heap coals, but to let the light in. But if it isn't to be, he will heap the coals upon their head. That's not
Absolutely.
So, this is that time, like we've been talking about, the frequency of our words, the vibration, all of these things. The world is not, we are not just pieces of artifacts upon this. Everything is living. Everything here is a part of each other. He made everything that we might support each other, whether it be through our eating and drinking, whether it be through sunlight and the absorption of the hormone vitamin D, no matter what it is, everything has a symbiotic relationship to everything else. And that means our thoughts and our words, the frequencies that we put out there. The world has been filled with nothing but hate for years now, more so than any other time. And now they're starting to reap what they've sowed. But we don't have to. We may be in the world, but we don't have to be of it. We might be the ones that we start sowing the word. We start planting the word. We start planting the hope. We start planting the love. We start planting the patience and the kindness. And that when the rest of the world refuses to, let us say, not me. I'm too thankful to the Most High. These are tough things to do. When the house is burning around you, for you to be like, I don't care if all I have is a bucket of water, I'm putting this fire out. So
yeah, exactly. In Jacob 3:1 or James 3:1,
yeah,
not many of you shall become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. We all stumble in many ways. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. When we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by Sheol. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With the tongue we praise the sovereign Father, and with it we curse human beings who have been made in Elohim's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water. I mean, what I was thinking of while you were talking earlier is that what if Abba is just waiting for his children to learn to get along? What if that's what really this is all about, is for really us to learn how to get along on this earth, how to be a light, how to show love and still bring truth.
Well, that just goes to his mercy towards us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That he would give us that time.
Yeah, and if we could just figure it out real quick,
Yeah.
maybe if we could just figure out how to get along and understand that Messiah said, who are my brother and sister and mother? Those who do the will of my Father. If we're trying to do the will of our Father, are we not brothers and sisters? And should we not help each other? And there's just, I really think Abba is just wanting his children to get along and learn how to do it. And we have to go through some difficult challenges in order to learn it, because it's reproving us during this process.
And we know that he's to be the light within us, and he tells us that. It says, like in Matthew 5:16, he says, "Let your light so shine before men in such a way that they may see your righteous works and esteem your Father who is in the Shamin, or the heavens." And in 5:13 through 16, he says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if that salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer beneficial for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world, a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden. Nor does anyone light a lamp or put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house." And that's what he's calling us to do. In Yohanan 8:12, he says, and Yahushua said, again, spoke to them, saying, "I am the light of the world, and he who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." He brings us the light of life, and we're supposed to be the light to the world. He told them when he was instructing them from the very beginning that he didn't lift them up because there was anything spectacular about them. Not that they were just few in number. They weren't few in number, but they were small in stature. They were of no account to anybody. Nobody would have looked at them and thought anything about them. Oh, those are just the servants that came out of Mitzrayim. But he lifted them up and raised them up. And he said not only to do the things he's asked you to do in this loving obedience, but he said to go be a light to all men. He's giving us every chance. So I don't think we should wait. We need to start heeding the voice of our shepherd. We start hearing him. I pray that these words don't fall on deaf ears. I really do. I pray to our Heavenly Father that these words don't return void, that they don't return without a purpose, that they have done the purpose that they were meant to do, to cut away the dead branches so that new growth may start in each and every one of us. Neither one of us, I know Sis and I, are not preaching at you as though we're coming from a pious or righteous place, but exhorting you to come and join us in this time of introspection, in this time that we're going to be looking at ourselves, and we're going to be deeply in prayer, and we're going to be talking to as many people that will listen, and just tell them, be a light to all men, that they might be led to the Most High, that they might know that the repair of the breach has come, and that now there is a way that has been forged, a path that has already been beaten down. We don't have to do that work. Now we have to do is share, and that's hard because many people want to hear it. But like moths to a flame, hopefully our light will shine so bright before men they'll be drawn without even knowing why.
Exactly. So yeah, it's so important that we come together in this time, because the forces of evil and darkness, they're doing their thing. And once we realize how to stand together, and we have that love for one another and help each other rise to the level we're meant to be, amazing things are going to happen. We're going to see amazing things happen on this earth. When we look at Gideon's army, as I talked about earlier, it was only 300 men.
Yeah,
300.
And he weeded them out. He could have had so many more, but he said, "Nah, it's too many."
Yeah, that's too many. Like, he doesn't need, a bunch. He needs a few good men and women.
Yeah.
Like, to just stand together and fight this spiritual battle together.
Yeah.
And I do think that our differences with doctrine will just fade away, because we are fighting the spiritual forces of wickedness, helping people overcome being bound up by sin and sickness and these curses that have been placed upon us, that we really start to focus on defeating the giants in the land. And then these doctrinal things Abba will sort out. I believe it. I mean, we're to open the eyes of the blind and to heal the sick This is the commission. Raise the spiritually dead. This means you're bringing that light to their life so that they're no longer in spiritual darkness of death.
Yeah, I mean, I through the studies of the letters and the words, I've been able to shed some insight and light on stuff. But you're right. First, we have to raise them up from spiritual death. First, we have to have the lame to walk and the blind to see, the deaf to hear. First, like you said earlier, and it's something that somebody a long time ago said, and I kind of just was like, get them in the boat. He said, get them in the barn, get them under that sukkah. First, get them under the covering. Yeah. We're not going to attract them by browbeating them. And we're not gonna draw love and brethren and desire towards us with harsh words. Like you said, a kind word turns away wrath. These are the things that we're do. Whatever's right, whatever's noble, whatever's of shalom. These are the things that we're to think of. We're going to think on His word. What's in His word? His word is defined in 2 of the greatest commands, which the whole Torah hinges upon. And that's love. He says, like, love your brother with all your heart, soul, with all, as if it was yourself. You would never do yourself wrong intentionally, unless, for whatever reason. And then love him above everything with all you have. Everything is His. Just commit your whole life to everything is His. You not only have my heart, my body, you have all my goods. All my items do not even belong to me. They're His. And if He says, I don't want them, get rid of them, I'll get rid of them. That's when you have that mindset that this stuff isn't important. The only thing that's important is if I love Him, I love my brethren as I love myself. I am a light to all men, which means instead of responding out of anger and angst and fear and all the things that are being instilled in us each and every day, and the incessant need to be right, it's hard to get over that. But those are the things that we want. We have to walk in the light. We have to be the light. He says you are the light because He is the light. And if we abide in Him, then we are the light. Oh, man.
And He reveals the truth to us. He gives us that by His Ruach and the Word. Those things we should be striving after, and then He'll reveal a matter to us. And in Proverbs 21:26, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. I really have to check myself all the time and humble myself all the time, because it's so easy to get in that place of being prideful and thinking that I know a lot of stuff. I don't know anything that He doesn't give. And I never want to think that I've achieved something, so then I'm no longer teachable, I'm no longer humble, I'm no longer receiving. I never want to get in that place of just thinking that now I can think that I've arrived. I never want to be in that place. And so, I find that people listen. I have talked to so many people and told them my beliefs just in a different way. I speak it in a different way, in a kind way, but just what my beliefs are, but just do it not in a condescending way, but in a kind way and in a truthful way. But I try very hard to keep it kind, and people receive it. I am really shocked. I have told people that I thought I would have a lot of troubles with, and it went well because I did it out of love. I just said, no, this is just what I believe in, and this is why. And there was no condemnation with it. And they received it. And I'm just really shocked sometimes. It's not always what we say, it's how we say it, I think.
Oh, yeah. I find sometimes when you vomiting, like I said, that very first message you gave, where I heard it so clearly, stop trying to tell them everything all at once. You're just overloading them. They can't. We're trying to give them more than they can deal with. And sometimes when you just kind of give them nuggets here and there, like lately, people at work are asking me certain things about, the feasts and the Moedims and those kind of things, and not really understanding. One of them is not a believer. One is a somebody who's a Christian, and one's pretty much an atheist. And he's asking me about it, and and more I'll find him asking me a question here and there. It's not all the time, but it's enough that I can tell that a tiny seed has been planted. And if I try to overload him with, this and that, these kind of things, to where, oh, this group is wrong and this group is wrong, he's just going to go, oh, they're just like everyone else. He's not going to hear anything. He'll be like, you sound like the rest of them, so yeah, okay, whatever. But if I just give a nugget about this here and that there, and I leave it, I find that Yah really does, water that word. He really does help to bring water for that word and let it grow a little bit. It may take a while for anything to come to harvest, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. Before, I wanted to get everybody up to where I was. I wanted everyone to understand what I understood and see it. And, and it's like, it didn't happen to me overnight. So why do I want everyone to have all that knowledge all at once? Maybe that's not what he wants for them. Not everybody has been lifted up or raised up for the same purpose. We all have a part to play, and they may have something much greater involved for them, or even much less from a physical perspective, but from a spiritual perspective. People, he says, lift up some to be those that are encouragers. But that one who's encouraging, that's one of the most important things you could possibly do. To encourage somebody is to lift that person up from where they are to where they can be an empty vessel for him to fill. I'm like, I don't know that there is a greater job that seems like one of the least that you are lifted up right now in the here and now, where you could see. If you think about somebody who's encouraging people, just strengthening their faith and their belief, that's all they're doing. How strong and powerful that is.
Yeah, it is. And it's a beautiful thing when you need it, a word fitly spoken and in due season is like apples of gold in a setting of silver.
Yeah.
I always love that, because somebody comes with just that right word and just that season that you needed it. And I've had that happen many times where, I needed something and it was just at the right time, and it really fulfilled that need, and it was, sent from Yah, because it was right at that time I needed it. And I think it's so important that we realize that those words, our words are so powerful. They can bring healing and they can bring destruction. They can bring curses and they can bring good and health and life. We speak life, choose life, the tree of life. And Yah does give the increase. And so if he can work in our lives, and I think about how long it's taken me, I guess it's 17, 18 years. It's been a process, and I can't expect somebody just coming in maybe to have gone through all those processes, all that refinement, all that training, all that stuff. I have to be patient. I have to be understanding. I have to be merciful and compassionate toward what other people's growth process is. And that doesn't mean we excuse sin. That doesn't mean we say it's okay to sin.
No.
So, it's not okay to sin.
No.
But that's not what we're saying.
But it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay right now if that's where you are right now. And again, this comes back to that being someone who encourages. If you can be so much more encouraging by sharing his word with somebody, by sharing those little things, those insights that you got, not talking about whatever, but bringing just more insight. The more they're going to start, the more the things will start to fall away from their tongues, the things of the world and the things that they thought, and their traditions and their religiosity and all the rest of it. Those things will start to fall away. But he's the one who removed the scales from Shaul's eyes. He removes the scales from our eyes. It's not us. We couldn't have pried them off with any amount of force. We didn't pry them off our own eyes. I thought long before I ever came into this, I thought I was well aware of what was really going on.
And think about the last year, the changes just in the growth and change and transformation within all of our lives that, gosh, I mean, we're different. We're all different from even a week ago, like a day ago. It's just always a constant changing and growing and learning and process every day, every week, month, year. Constantly growing, desiring to grow. Some people don't because they become stagnant in it and they don't pursue it. But those pursuing it, it's a constant change. You're different. If you're not different than you were yesterday, something's wrong. I mean, you should be growing a little bit every day. But I think about how much, I've changed even in the last year. And this has been a long process for me anyway. So, it's just amazing. And I love that. I love that process. I love it. I've grown to understand it. Even the difficulties, even the challenges, the trials, even if the struggles, even the people, I understand that it's revealing something that I need to see about myself, whether to not be that way and understand that I need to have compassion toward others because I was either shown compassion or not. And so I learned, through how I was treated by people. I learned how I want to be treated. And so do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So that's what I learned along the way, is that if I don't want to be treated that way, then I need to, treat people the way I'd want to be treated. And so, there's a whole lot that we're going to learn this season. I think it's going to be an amazing growth process, and His favor will be upon our homes, and we will be in His barn under His protection, and we won't be sleeping or slumbering. We'll have our lamps full, lit, and our oil full, and we'll be wise and not foolish in this season. And I think that's really important. The main thing is that we keep our lamps full and our lamps lit.
Absolutely. It's so important. And then, like I said, I think we'll get into some more of the deeper elements of our words and the what's behind them as far as frequency and vibration and those things that are measurable, believe it or not. And we'll even get into more of those things because it really is imperative. If you have, we've all heard this, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And it's like, if you don't have anything nice to say it anyway. Say something nice anyway. Like I say, you change a whole dynamic. You can change the dynamic of your work relationship. You can change the dynamic of your daily life to wake up just thankful, just saying thank you. I'm just so appreciative. When I wake up, I thank Him. If I wake up at 3 and I feel tired and I look up and I realize, I've got another hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it might be of sleep, I thank Him. And I go back to sleep just because I know I've got a little more time. I woke up tired and I was like, oh, is it time? And then I know I got a little bit more and I go, oh, thank you so much, Father. And it's to be grateful for everything and realize those words, those vocalized words, and even those words in thought put out there start to change you, because daily you will look for things to thank Him for. Daily you will be like, I didn't thank Him today. You'll start to, you'll want to thank Him because you'll go like, I have so much to be thankful for.
Yeah.
And
The gratitude is such an important thing, and it takes us to a whole nother level where if we're grateful, then, how can other things be affecting us? We're focusing on what's good instead of what's bad or what's evil. We're focusing on what YAH has provided and not what we don't have. So it takes you to a whole different level of, a spiritual mind. And then, as we know, we reap what we sow. And so the more grateful we are, it seems like the more we receive. The more we plant that seed of gratitude, we receive more of that joy and that abundance in the heart. So very, very important things. We're going to probably be dealing with those kinds of topics all winter. Very, very important.
Yeah, the work has not ceased. It's not a time of dormancy. It's not a break between harvests. It's a preparing for the harvest.
Exactly. And first fruits, right?
We have to be. We have to start working on ourselves. How can we possibly, that whole verse about hypocrisy where he says, you look at a brother's eye and yet you have a plank in your own, and a splinter in your brother's eye. And it's like, he's talking about hypocrisy. That whole thing is about, are you not doing these very things? You talk about keeping Torah, but are you not breaking Torah? Or you talk about, gaslighting or something as somebody else, but are you not doing that very thing? These are the things that as we're trying to encourage one another with the, hey, you're wrong. That's not encouragement. So we gotta, we have to encourage one another. We have to spur on each other. It says, let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and righteous works, and not giving up our meeting together, but encouraging one another, and all the more that you see the day approaching. So none of us knows what day that is. Every day is a day approaching for us. We may not be here tomorrow. That could just happen. If it's his will, that's what will happen. So I say, how much more to say, look towards, what did he say, not to make plans and say you will do this or you will do that tomorrow? Okay, we're not to make plans, of what we're doing tomorrow. We're looking at what's right before us. He's right before us. We're not going to say, like you say it all the time, YAH willing.
YAH willing. It's the only way I know. It's his will and it's not mine.
Yeah.
That's why I know if he wants me to make a video, it's his will. If he doesn't, it's his will. I have totally surrendered to that process. I know his sovereignty, and even the things that come into my life, I know his will is happening because I'm always putting myself in his hands. I'm always surrendering to that process, and I know that his will be done. So whether I do a video, it's his will. Whether it gets done, it's his will. I've surrendered to it. And that gives me great shalom. It really does. I've surrendered to his will and his desire. And he does, correct me if I'm wrong. And he gives me great shalom if I'm on the right path. And I've learned over a lot of years how to test the spirits. I know how to do it. And that's another thing is that, like, if someone, tells you how wrong you are, but you've got great shalom with them. Again, we're not supposed to, cursed is the one who trusts in mankind. We're listening to other voices. We really have to connect to him. And if he gives us that inner peace and shalom, then we know we're on the right track. Because you can't get it from the world. You can't get it from any other source. You don't have shalom in this world without him and being in alignment with his word. And so,
yeah. And like I said, he does a lot for the fact that we're in this corrupted flesh. He allots for us to make mistakes. He does. It doesn't mean you're cut off forever because you make a mistake. Now, again, it's not talking about willful sin.
Right. Exactly. Willful sin is another topic.
But mostly being overcome with his anger towards the people. Eliyahu being overcome with his anger towards the those that once knew the name of Yahuwah and sought to go a different way and worship the Lord or Baal. They those who did those things, his anger towards them. So he allows for some things to happen. He allows us to have that. So, and that doesn't condemn us necessarily. So if he's not going to condemn us for mistakes, for honest mistakes, then why are we so willfully condemning other people for mistakes? It's like I said, it's something. When I first got in, I was a purist, and I was like, I wanted it a certain way because I just felt like, I had to do it. I had to get it right, and I realized, oh wow, if I'm walking in Mashiach, I don't have to worry about because he does it right. So I have to follow after him. I have to pick up that Zulon, that staff daily and walk after him and seek his path and not veer off to the left or the right. And I don't have to be the monitor of the path for anyone else. I have to be the monitor of the path for me and a light to all men and a loving, kind brother to whomever.
Yeah.
That I encourage them. And again, like I said, he's been working on me even recently. So yeah, I'm getting it. I hear him.
Yeah. Proverbs 15:4, the soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit. I mean, those are serious words. I think we read these so many times that we don't understand it as a life form all of itself. These words are life.
They are
life forms. They're energy and they're life forms, and they create.
Yeah.
Just like the word in the beginning created, and our words create something, and it's good or evil, or so our words create something.
They do.
And we'll be judged by every idle word we speak. And I think that it says in Proverbs 10:19, sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues.
Right.
There's just so much about the tongue. It's like, because it speaks the word.
Yeah, it tells us even the fool seems wise when he chooses not to speak. So
Exactly.
In other words, just even if you are foolish in a lot of ways, just sit back and take it in, and in that way you have become wise. So yeah, it's and you're right. We read these words and we forget they are life. When they say that that his word is life, that's not hyperbole. That's not metaphor. That's literal. His words are life. In them is the light of life. The word is the light. The word is the life. The word is the Torah, is the Father's instruction. It is his loving commands towards us. It is alive. It is not, that's not just some pithy saying that somebody came up with. It is alive. It has frequency. It is measurable. There is a pulse, if you will. It's alive.
Yeah.
I say, and it's testable. I tell you, again, I say, if you don't believe it, go test it out. Go make some rice. Just make some rice, put it a little bit in this bowl, a little bit in that bowl, set them on separate parts of the house, go to one and say horrible things to it every day. Go to the other one, say very kind, wonderful things to it, pray for it, and then keep watching it. Watch which one spoils much faster. You'll be shocked at the results. Same way with your relationship. Go tell someone that you have a strained relationship with something kind every day and watch what happens. Those coals are either going to be heaped on their head, but that's not your goal. Your goal is to change them. Your goal is to love them into the light. We can't hate anyone into the light. We can't reprimand anyone into the light. We can't keep compelling them by telling them how wrong they are into the light. That don't work. I think they said, not that I'm trying to attract flies, but you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Yeah.
I think we get more. I think we will get more people into his sukkah, into his barn, into his covering with the honey of the word. So
yeah, and the truth. I mean,
that is the truth, right?
Yeah, and that is the truth, is that, speak it kindly and people will have a desire for it in their heart. Proverbs 15:4, the soothing tongue. Oh, I already said that one. But Proverbs 21:23, those who guard their mouths and their tongues keep themselves from calamity. Calamity. Our
Right.
tongues can cause calamity. We know this. I mean, I think we really have to understand that in a desire to bring truth, it's important to speak truth. And we should stand on those truths as we know it. But that doesn't mean we have to force other people to adhere to our truth. And I think that's the difference. Bring your truth, stand in your truth.
Yeah.
And deliver it with kindness. You know?
Ephesians, in a letter to the Ephesians, he encourages them in 4:15. He says, rather, speaking the truth in love, we are going to grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Mashiach. And it's absolutely the truth.
Right.
So he says in Johanan and John 17:17, he says, and seal them in the truth. And then he says, your word is the truth, which is right out of Psalm 119. So,
and just to again bring it back home, love Yahuwah with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love one another. It's all there. It's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
We just don't know how to. We don't know how to walk it out somehow. We don't know how to put it into action. We hear the words, but how do you do it? And the instructions there, and that is what this season is for. Really getting in alignment with these words, because the more we do that, the more healing comes to us, the more we have access to the spiritual realm, the more Abba hears our voices, and the more healing we receive within our bodies, our minds, our nefesh, and the more we bring that kingdom on this earth.
Yep.
So that's the whole goal. This remnant army, this is everything about that. Raising up a remnant army. He doesn't need a whole lot. He needs some really dedicated, strong spiritual warriors who war in the spirit with love in their hearts, with a deep love, and bring truth. I don't want to negate that. Truth, stand on truth. And,
well, Kepha said that in First Kepha or Pitar 122. He says, having purified your beings by your obedience to the truth for a sincere brotherly love, love one another earnestly from a pure heart. So it is, we purify our very being, our very nefesh, our souls, our neshama, by our obedience to the truth. We just found out his word is the truth for a sincere, because in that we find, what's he said, just like you just said, we cannot negate those two greatest commands. In those, the entire Torah hinges. That is the crux in which everything hangs. That is the nail on which all of this hangs. That is everything,
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're clanging cymbals, we're bells, and we're doing it for nothing. We might know all the mysteries. I might learn every Hebrew word and all the gematria and all the breakdown of the letters and everything else. But if I just have no love, no patience, no kindness, no long suffering, none of that, no fruit of the Ruach whatsoever, then it was vain. It was worthless. It was futility.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what this season will be about. Really growing in that word and aligning ourselves with it and walking as our Messiah walked. So yeah.
Yeah. And Kepha said again, like newborn infants long for the pure spiritual milk, so that by it you might grow up into deliverance.
Exactly.
We're to long for that spiritual milk.
Yeah.
We're to walk in that spiritual, in those spiritual things. We're to wrestle in the spiritual things. We're too busy wrestling around, wallowing in the mud with the pigs, and we need to get out of it. So.
Right, exactly. And I think it'll be a great season of healing. I think, when it says set the captives free, I think a lot of people are going to be set free from a lot of things. I really do. I see it as a great healing time, and a lot of people being set free. Well, those who choose to walk the walk with us, or listen to the messages and truly apply it, it'll be healing. It's medicine to the nefesh, to the inner being. It's medicine.
Absolutely.
These words are medicine. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Branches, this has been great. I appreciate it. I think we probably have gone quite a while tonight. So.
Yeah, because this is a subject we barely brushed over so much of this. So it's this will be an ongoing thing that we can keep going. It's necessary, and we all need. And when I say that, brethren out there, we all need. All of us do. We all need to heed these things. We all need to be aware of the season. We all need to take advantage of this time. We're alive today for a reason. There's a purpose for us being here today. And it's not to condemn one another, but it's to lift one another up. And it is to get under that covering, that sukkah. He's given us a chance. He keeps giving us chances. Let's not waste it. Let's get together. Let's make the most of everything that he's given us. And I want to encourage all of you to go over to our sister here's channel as often as you can. She posts some wonderful music at times, and she has always beautiful prayers that YAH gives her. So please take a listen. If you haven't gone over to Ancient Path Remnant, please do so. Subscribe to her, and you'll find some great encouragement there. She's always got a soft word and something encouraging. So please do. Well, sis, thanks a lot for joining me today, and for, well, actually getting together, not really joining me since we planned this as a joint venture. So I appreciate it. And we love all you guys out there. Sis, you got any final words?
Oh, just, no, be encouraged. Just be encouraged that good things, happen for those who love Yahuwah. And when we walk in his ways, we just be encouraged that he's with us and will never forsake us. So,
hallelujah.
Just encouragement.
Hallelujah. All right, brethren. Well, we love you guys out there, and we do want you to be encouraged in his word, encouraged in his love, and encouraged in his light. So he brought all that forth for us. So thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.